Officer Jake Miller adjusted his radio as he drove down the dusty road on the outskirts of Pine Valley. The afternoon sun beat down on his patrol car, while his partner Rex sat alert in the back seat. Rex was a 5-year-old German Shepherd who had been with the police force for 3 years. The dog had an excellent record for drug detection and tracking suspects through difficult terrain. Jake had been patrolling this area for almost 6 months now and knew every house and farm along the route. Most of the properties were well maintained except for the old Collins farmhouse that sat about half a mile from the main road. Pete Collins had died 3 years ago, and his family had moved to the city. Since then, the house had remained empty and slowly fallen into disrepair. As they approached the familiar dirt driveway leading to the Collins place, Jake noticed something strange. Rex suddenly became very still in the back seat. The dog's ears perked up and his head tilted in a way Jake had never seen before. Rex was usually calm during patrols, but he would still move around occasionally or look out the windows. Now he sat completely motionless like a statue. Jake slowed the car and pulled over to the side of the road. He turned around to look at Rex, who was staring directly at the abandoned farmhouse. The dog's brown eyes were focused and intense, but he wasn't growling or showing any signs of aggression. Instead, he seemed to be listening to something that Jake couldn't hear. The farmhouse looked the same as always. The white paint was peeling from the wooden siding and several shutters hung crooked on their hinges. The front porch sagged slightly and weeds had grown up around the foundation. A rusty mailbox stood at the end of the driveway with the name Collins barely visible on the side. Jake got out of the car and opened the back door. Rex immediately jumped out, but instead of running toward the house or sniffing around as he normally would, the dog just stood perfectly still. His hackles were slightly raised and his tail was rigid, but he made no sound. Jake had worked with police dogs for 8 years and had never seen behavior like this. The radio in Jake's car began making strange crackling sounds. He walked back to check it and noticed the static was getting worse. The normal chatter from dispatch was being interrupted by odd electronic noises that sounded almost musical. Jake tried adjusting the frequency, but the interference continued. Rex started walking slowly toward the farmhouse, but his movements were careful and deliberate. The dog would take a few steps, then stop and turn his head as if listening for something. Jake followed about 10 feet behind, watching Rex's unusual behavior with growing concern. When they reached the front yard, Rex began walking in a large circle around the house. He would stop at certain points and stand completely still for several seconds before moving to the next spot. Jake counted 7 different locations where Rex paused during his circuit of the property. Each time the dog stopped, he would face toward the house and his ears would move forward. Jake pulled out his cell phone to call for backup, but noticed that it had no signal bars at all. This was unusual because cell coverage in this area was normally good. He tried walking to different spots around the property, but couldn't get any signal anywhere near the house. The afternoon was getting late, and shadows were starting to grow longer. Jake decided they needed to investigate the house more closely. He approached the front door with Rex following close behind. The door was locked, but Jake could see through the dirty windows into what had been the living room. Old furniture covered, with white sheets created ghostly shapes in the dim light. Rex suddenly walked away from the front door and headed around to the back of the house. Jake followed and found the dog standing near a basement window that was partially hidden by overgrown bushes. Rex was staring down at the window, with the same intense focus he had shown earlier. Jake knelt down and brushed away some of the vegetation to get a better look. The basement window was cleaner than it should have been for a house that had been abandoned for 3 years. There were also fresh scratches in the dirt around the window frame, as if someone had been opening and closing it recently. The radio interference was getting stronger, and Jake realized it was creating a pattern. The static would fade in and out in regular intervals like some kind of signal. He had never heard anything like it before, and it was making him increasingly uncomfortable. Rex finally moved away from the basement window, but instead of heading back toward the car, he walked to the old barn behind the house. The barn door was slightly open, and Rex sat down directly in front of it. The dog's posture was alert, but not aggressive. He seemed to be waiting for something or someone. Jake approached the barn cautiously and peered through the gap in the door. Inside, he could see old farming equipment covered with dust and cobwebs. Everything looked normal except for a strange blue glow coming from somewhere deep in the barn. The light was very faint but definitely present. The sun was starting to set, and Jake knew he needed to make a decision. Rex's behavior was unlike anything he had experienced, and the electronic interference was getting worse. His police training told him that something was definitely wrong at this location, but he couldn't identify what it might be. Jake decided to call for backup using the radio in his patrol car, even though the signal was poor. He needed other officers to witness whatever was happening at the Collins farmhouse. Rex followed him back to the car but kept looking over his shoulder at the house and barn. As Jake reached for his radio, Rex suddenly barked once. It was a sharp, clear sound that cut through the evening air. The dog had been silent for over an hour, and the sudden bark made Jake jump. Rex was looking directly at the basement window again, and his tail was wagging slightly for the first time since they had arrived. Something was definitely happening at the abandoned Collins farmhouse, and Jake knew that Rex had detected it long before any human could have noticed. The question now was whether they should wait for backup or investigate further on their own. Dr. Amanda Price arrived at the Collins farmhouse just after midnight in a black government vehicle. She was a tall woman in her 40s with graying hair and sharp blue eyes that seemed to take in every detail of her surroundings. Jake noticed that Agent Murphy and her team showed considerable deference to Dr. Price despite her civilian appearance. Dr. Price entered the hidden chamber and immediately began examining the crystal formations and metallic panels with practiced efficiency. She carried instruments that Jake had never seen before and seemed to understand the purpose of the alien technology. Rex watched her carefully, but remained relaxed as she moved around the chamber. After completing her initial examination, Dr. Price gathered Jake, Lisa, and the other investigators in the basement outside the chamber. She explained that she was a xenobiologist working with a classified government program that had been monitoring unusual technological discoveries for over 30 years. The Collins farmhouse chamber was not the first site of its kind that her team had encountered. The equipment belonged to an alien species that Dr. Price referred to as the Zephyrians. These beings had been observing Earth for several decades, but had never made direct contact with humans. Instead, they had established hidden monitoring stations at strategic locations around the planet. The stations were designed to operate autonomously, for extended periods without maintenance. Dr. Price explained that the Zephyrians were not hostile invaders, but rather protectors who had been shielding Earth from other alien species that posed a genuine threat. The hidden chamber was actually a communication relay that formed part of a global defense network. The Zephyrians had been using this network to monitor and deflect potential dangers before they could reach Earth. Jake asked why Rex had been able to detect the chamber when human technology had missed it completely. Dr. Price smiled and explained that dogs possessed a unique sensitivity to quantum field fluctuations that the Zephyrians had incorporated into their detection systems. The alien technology was specifically designed to respond to certain bioelectric patterns found in canine neural activity. The Zephyrian stations had been programmed to activate emergency protocols when approached by what they termed guardian species. On Earth, the closest equivalent to the Zephyrian concept of guardian species were domestic dogs due to their enhanced sensory capabilities and their partnership relationship with humans. Rex had not simply discovered the chamber by accident, though Zephyrian technology had been actively calling to him using quantum frequencies that only dogs could perceive. This explained his unusual behavior and his calm demeanor once they had found the hidden equipment. In a sense, Rex had been recruited by the aliens to serve as their first point of contact with humanity. Dr. Price led them back into the chamber where she approached one of the larger metallic panels. She placed her hand on the surface and spoke, a series of words in a language that sounded like music rather than speech. The panel responded by displaying complex patterns of light that seemed to contain vast amounts of information. The chamber suddenly filled with a holographic projection that showed a three-dimensional map of Earth. Hundreds of small blue lights were scattered across the continents, indicating the locations of other Zephyrian stations. Most of the lights were steady and bright, but several were flashing red in what appeared to be an alarm pattern. Dr. Price's expression became grave as she studied the display. She explained that the red lights indicated stations that had gone, offline, or were malfunctioning. The Zephyrian defense network was failing, and this posed a serious threat to Earth security. The emergency activation of the Collins farmhouse station was a call for help. The holographic display changed to show images of another alien species that looked nothing like the peaceful Zephyrians. These beings were larger and more aggressive, with dark metallic armor and weapons that seemed to be powered by some form of energy manipulation. Dr. Price identified them as the Vanguard, a conquering race that had been expanding their territory throughout this region of the galaxy. The Zephyrians had been protecting Earth from Vanguard scouts for years by intercepting their probe ships and disrupting their surveillance efforts. However, the defense network was now compromised, and the Vanguard were preparing for a full-scale invasion. The failing stations had left gaps in Earth's protection that would soon be exploited. Jake felt overwhelmed by the implications of what he was hearing. A few hours ago, he had been on routine patrol, and now he was learning about alien invasions and interstellar warfare. He looked at Rex, who was sitting calmly beside one of the crystal formations, as if he understood everything that was being explained. Dr. Price continued her briefing by revealing that the Zephyrians had been subtly influencing human technological development for decades. Many of the advances in electronics, computing, and materials science had been inspired by information the aliens had carefully leaked to human researchers. They had been preparing humanity for eventual contact and partnership in the galactic defense effort. The chamber's main display activated again, showing detailed technical specifications for weapons and defense systems that were far beyond current human capabilities. Dr. Price explained that the Zephyrians were offering to share this technology with humanity, but only if humans agreed to take over the defense of Earth and other worlds in the local stellar region. This was why Rex's discovery was so important. The Zephyrians could not directly intervene in human affairs due to restrictions imposed by what Dr. Price called cosmic law. The defense of each world had to be undertaken by its native species working in partnership with approved guardian species. On Earth, that meant humans working with dogs. The holographic display showed images of other worlds where similar partnerships had been successful. Alien species worked alongside their guardian companions to operate quantum defense networks that could repel invasion forces and protect entire solar systems. The technology was incredibly powerful, but required the combined mental capabilities of two different species to function properly. Dr. Price turned to Jake and explained that he and Rex had been chosen for reasons beyond their discovery of the chamber. The Zephyrian technology had been scanning Earth's population for individuals who demonstrated the proper psychological and emotional bonds with their canine partners. Jake and Rex were among the few human-dog teams that could potentially interface with the alien defense systems. Lisa asked about the time frame for the Vanguard invasion, and Dr. Price's answer was sobering. The aliens estimated that Earth had less than 72 hours before the first wave of invasion ships would arrive. The failing defense network would not be able to stop them, and humanity would face extinction unless the quantum defense systems could be activated with human operators. The weight of responsibility was staggering, but Jake realized that he and Rex might be Earth's only hope for survival. The dog seemed to understand the gravity of the situation and moved closer to Jake as if offering comfort and support. Together, they would have to learn to operate technology that was centuries beyond human understanding, and do it in less than 3 days. Dr. Price began explaining the basic principles of quantum field manipulation, while the chamber's systems started downloading information directly into portable devices. The real education would begin immediately, and there was no time to waste on gradual preparation. Humanity's introduction to galactic civilization was about to be a trial by fire. Admiral Cain Rodriguez arrived at the Collins farmhouse site 6 hours after Dr. Price's initial briefing. He was accompanied by a full military convoy, including specialists from various branches of the armed forces and representatives from allied nations. The discovery had triggered the highest levels of national security protocols, and the situation was now being coordinated at the international level. Cain was a decorated officer with 30 years of experience in military intelligence and strategic planning. He had been briefed on the Zephyrian program 2 years earlier as part of his clearance for classified technological research. However, this was his first direct encounter with active alien technology, and the implications were staggering. Dr. Price led Kane and his team into the hidden chamber where the Zephyrian systems had continued analyzing the global situation. The holographic displays now showed detailed intelligence about the approaching Vanguard invasion force. The images were both fascinating and terrifying as they revealed the true scope of the threat facing Earth. The Vanguard fleet consisted of over 200 ships ranging from small scout vessels to massive battle cruisers capable of destroying entire cities. Their technology was based on energy manipulation and matter conversion, allowing them to turn raw materials into weapons and defensive systems in real time. They had conquered dozens of worlds using these capabilities and showed no mercy to species that resisted their expansion. Rex had remained in the chamber throughout the night and seemed to be learning to interact with the Zephyrian systems. Jake watched in amazement as his partner approached different crystal formations and somehow activated various displays and data streams. The dog appeared to be naturally compatible with the alien technology in ways that humans were not. The chamber's main display activated to show Earth's current defensive status, and the results were alarming. 23 locations around the globe were marked in bright red, indicating critical vulnerabilities in the Zephyrian network. These were sites where Vanguard advanced scouts had already established invasion beacons that would guide the main fleet to strategic targets. Kane studied the marked locations and realized they included major population centers, military installations, and key infrastructure nodes. New York, Los Angeles, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, and 15 other cities were all targeted for immediate destruction. The Vanguard strategy was to eliminate Earth's technological and population centers in the first wave of attacks. Dr. Price explained that the Zephyrian artificial intelligence had been monitoring Vanguard activities for months, but had been unable to respond due to the failing defense network. The aliens had hoped that humanity would discover the hidden chambers and accept their partnership before the invasion fleet arrived. Rex's detection of the Collins site had triggered the emergency protocols just in time. The AI interface activated and began communicating directly with the assembled humans through the holographic display. The artificial intelligence had a distinctive personality that combined vast knowledge with what seemed like genuine concern for Earth's welfare. It explained that the Zephyrians had evolved from a species similar to Earth's canines millions of years ago and felt a natural kinship with dogs. The AI revealed that dogs possessed quantum sensitivity because of genetic modifications the Zephyrians had made to Earth's wolf population thousands of years ago. The aliens had been preparing for this moment by ensuring that humans would have proper guardian companions when the time came to join the Galactic Defense Network. Every domestic dog carried dormant Zephyrian genetic markers that could interface with their technology. Kane asked about the tactical situation, and the AI provided detailed analysis of Vanguard capabilities and weaknesses. The invaders were powerful, but relied heavily on their technological superiority, and had never faced organized resistance from Guardian species partnerships. Their weapons were designed to overwhelm single-species defenses, but were vulnerable to the quantum field manipulation that human dog teams could generate. The AI explained that each of the 23 invasion sites would require a human dog team to operate Zephyrian defense systems. The technology could create energy shields that would protect entire cities and generate quantum disruption fields that would disable Vanguard ships. However, the systems required continuous operation by teams that were psychologically bonded and could work in perfect synchronization. Jake realized that he and Rex were being asked to serve as the template for training other human dog teams in less than 60 hours. The AI confirmed this and began displaying training protocols that would need to be implemented immediately at military bases around the world. The learning curve was steep, but the alternative was the complete destruction of human civilization. The holographic display showed footage of Vanguard conquests on other worlds, and the images were difficult to watch. Entire species had been enslaved or eliminated when they failed to mount effective resistance. The aliens showed no interest in negotiation or coexistence and viewed other intelligent life forms as resources to be harvested or obstacles to be removed. Dr. Price received reports from other Zephyrian sites that had been activated around the globe. Military teams with K-9 units were converging on the hidden chambers and beginning emergency training programs. The success rate was encouraging, as many human-dog partnerships were proving compatible with the alien technology. However, time was running out and coordination between sites was proving challenging. The AI provided each team with quantum communication devices that would allow instant contact between all 23 defense positions. The devices looked like simple crystalline structures but contained processing power that exceeded anything in human technology. Rex seemed particularly interested in these devices and would carry them carefully in his mouth when asked to move them. Kane established a command structure that would coordinate the global defense effort while allowing each team to operate independently. The Zephyrian systems were designed to function as a network, but could adapt to local conditions and tactical requirements. Each human-dog team would have considerable autonomy in how they defended their assigned location. The training process began immediately with Jake and Rex serving as demonstration subjects for the other teams. The AI guided them through basic quantum field manipulation exercises that felt more like meditation than technology operation. The key was achieving a mental state where human intuition and canine sensory perception could merge into a unified awareness. Rex proved to be a natural at quantum field generation and could create small energy barriers within minutes of starting the exercises. Jake found that he could sense what Rex was detecting and could guide the energy fields with conscious intention. Together, they were able to generate defensive capabilities that neither species could achieve alone. The other team struggled initially, but began showing progress as they learned to trust their canine partners and surrender conscious control to shared awareness. Military discipline had to be balanced with emotional openness, and many soldiers found this combination challenging. However, the urgency of the situation motivated everyone to push through their limitations. As the second day of training progressed, reports began arriving about Vanguard scout ships being detected at the edge of the solar system. The invasion fleet was ahead of schedule, and Earth would have less than 48 hours to complete preparations. The fate of humanity and countless other species throughout the galaxy would depend on the success of 23 hastily trained human-dog teams operating technology they barely understood. Jake managed to get through to dispatch using his car radio despite the heavy interference. He requested backup and explained that his K9 partner was showing unusual behavior at the abandoned Collins property. Within 20 minutes, Detective Lisa Wong arrived with a forensics team and 2 additional patrol officers. Lisa was a veteran investigator who had worked with Jake on several cases involving missing persons and drug trafficking. She trusted his judgment and knew that Rex had an excellent track record for detecting things that humans missed. When Jake explained what had happened, Lisa immediately took the situation seriously. The forensics team brought portable equipment to test for gas leaks, drug residue, and other hazardous materials that might explain Rex's behavior. Officer Dan Carter and Officer Amy Foster spread out to secure the perimeter, while Jake and Lisa approached the house with Rex leading the way. Rex repeated his earlier behavior by walking in a careful circle around the house and stopping at the same 7 locations. Lisa watched this pattern and noticed that the stopping point seemed to form a geometric shape around the building. She had never seen a dog behave this way, and it made her think of how security dogs were trained to detect electronic surveillance equipment. The forensics team leader, Carlos Rivera, used a metal detector to scan the areas where Rex had stopped. At 3 of the 7 locations, the device gave strong readings indicating buried metal objects. Carlos marked these spots with small flags and made notes about the depth and size of whatever was underground. Lisa and Jake entered the house through the front door after Carlos confirmed that the air inside was safe to breathe. The interior was exactly what they expected from an abandoned farmhouse. Dust covered everything and the floorboards creaked under their weight. Family photos still hung on the walls, and old magazines were scattered on tables as if the residents had just stepped out for a few minutes. Rex moved through the house with purpose, heading directly to a door that led to the basement. Jake opened the door and they could see wooden stairs descending into darkness. Carlos provided them with flashlights, and they began their descent with Rex leading the way. The basement was larger than expected and appeared to extend beyond the foundation of the house above. Old mason jars lined wooden shelves along one wall, and a coal furnace sat cold and silent in the center of the room. Rex walked past all of these familiar objects and headed straight to the far wall. Lisa shined her flashlight on the wall where Rex was standing and noticed that the stone foundation looked different in that area. The mortar between the stones was a slightly different color, and the surface was cleaner than the rest of the basement. When she pressed against the stones with her hand, she could feel a slight give as if there was empty space behind them. Carlos came down to examine the wall with his equipment and confirmed that it was indeed hollow behind the stones. The metal detector showed strong readings all along this section of the foundation. Jake called for additional equipment, and within an hour, they had tools to carefully remove the stones without damaging whatever might be hidden behind them. As they worked, Rex sat patiently nearby, watching every move. The dog's earlier tension had been replaced by what seemed like anticipation. His tail wagged occasionally and his ears remained perked up as if he was waiting for something important to be revealed. The false wall came away more easily than expected, revealing a chamber that had been expertly concealed. The space was about, 8 feet wide and 12 feet deep with a ceiling height of 7 feet. But what they found inside made everyone stop and stare in amazement. The hidden chamber contained equipment unlike anything any of them had ever seen. Smooth metallic panels covered the walls and ceiling, creating surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Crystal-like structures grew from the floor in organic patterns that reminded Lisa of coral formations. A low humming sound filled the air, and several of the crystal formations pulsed with soft blue light. Carlos tested the air in the chamber and found it safe but with unusual electromagnetic readings that were off the scale of his normal equipment. The temperature inside the chamber was exactly 72 degrees, despite the cool basement temperature outside. There was no visible source of power, yet the equipment was clearly active and operational. Jake noticed that Rex was no longer tense or alert. Instead, the dog seemed completely relaxed, as if he had found exactly what he was looking for. Rex walked into the chamber and lay down next to one of the larger crystal formations. His breathing was calm and steady, and he appeared to be falling asleep. Lisa took photos of everything while Carlos made detailed measurements and readings. None of the equipment matched anything in their databases, and the materials seemed to be composites that didn't exist in any known manufacturing processes. The metallic panels felt warm to the touch and seemed to vibrate slightly under their hands. One of the larger panels suddenly came alive with moving patterns of light that flowed across its surface like liquid. The patterns were complex and beautiful, but clearly not random. Lisa realized they were looking at some kind of display or interface, but had no idea how to interpret the information being shown. The discovery was far beyond anything that local law enforcement was equipped to handle. Lisa called her captain and explained what they had found. Within 2 hours, federal agents were on their way to the site, and the entire area was declared a restricted zone. Agent Helen Murphy arrived with a team of specialists who seemed to know more about the equipment than they were letting on. Jake noticed that they brought their own testing devices and moved through the chamber with familiarity rather than surprise. It was clear that this was not the first time the federal government had encountered technology like this. Rex remained calm throughout all the activity but seemed to respond to the presence of the federal agents. The dog would watch them carefully and occasionally move to different positions in the chamber, as if he was monitoring their actions. Jake had never seen his partner behave this way around strangers. Agent Murphy asked Jake and Lisa to remain at the site as witnesses and consultants. She explained that their discovery was of national security importance and that they would need to sign confidentiality agreements. The investigation was being transferred to a specialized unit that dealt with unusual technological discoveries. As night fell, the chamber was filled with portable lighting and additional equipment. Scientists arrived with instruments that were as mysterious as the technology they were studying. Rex seemed to approve of some of the newcomers while remaining wary of others. Jake began to wonder if his partner was somehow able to evaluate the intentions of the people entering the chamber. The most puzzling aspect of the entire situation was how the hidden chamber had remained concealed for so long and why Rex had been the one to discover it. Jake suspected that there was much more to this story than anyone was telling him, and that his K-9 partner had somehow been drawn to this location for reasons that went beyond normal police work. Dr. Kevin Liu and engineer Rachel Adams arrived at the Collins Farmhouse Command Center as the final preparation phase began. They represented a team of scientists and technicians who had been secretly working with Zephyrian technology for several years as part of classified research programs. Their expertise would be crucial for deploying the quantum defense systems at all 23 invasion sites within the remaining time window. Kevin was a quantum physicist who had been studying theoretical applications of multidimensional field manipulation when he was recruited into the Zephyrian program. Rachel was a systems engineer with experience in rapid deployment of complex technologies under battlefield conditions. Together, they formed the technical support team that would ensure each human dog unit had properly functioning defense equipment. The Zephyrian AI had provided detailed schematics for portable quantum field generators that could be manufactured using modified human industrial equipment. The devices looked like crystalline sculptures, but contained processing cores that could manipulate reality at the subatomic level. Each defense site would receive 3 generators along with backup power systems and communication networks. Rex had become increasingly sophisticated in his interactions with the alien technology and was now serving as a quality control inspector for the quantum generators. The dog could detect flaws or calibration errors that human instruments missed and would reject any equipment that did not meet optimal specifications. His enhanced senses had evolved far beyond normal canine capabilities during his exposure to the Zephyrian systems. Jake found that his partnership with Rex was developing into something that transcended the normal human-animal relationship. They were beginning to share thoughts and perceptions in ways that created a hybrid consciousness combining human reasoning with canine intuition. The experience was initially disturbing but had become natural as they learned to trust the process. The other human-dog teams around the world were reporting similar developments as their training progressed. Military handlers who had worked with their canine partners for years were discovering new levels of communication and cooperation. The quantum field exposure was awakening genetic modifications that the Zephyrians had embedded in both species thousands of years ago. Rachel coordinated the transportation of defense equipment to sites on 6 continents, while Kevin supervised the calibration process for each quantum generator. The logistics were complicated by the need for secrecy and the limited time available for testing. Every piece of equipment had to function perfectly during the first deployment because there would be no opportunity for repairs or adjustments during combat. The AI provided each team with detailed tactical information about their assigned defense zone, including maps of vanguard landing sites and predicted attack patterns. The alien invaders followed standard conquest protocols that prioritized the elimination of communication networks, power generation facilities, and military command centers. Human forces would need to protect these critical targets while maintaining their own operational capability. Jake and Rex practiced coordinating multiple defense sites simultaneously using the quantum communication network. The experience was like conducting an orchestra where each instrument was a different human-dog team, generating specific frequencies of defensive energy. The harmony between teams would determine the overall effectiveness of Earth's protection grid. The training revealed that each human-dog partnership had unique characteristics that influenced their quantum field generation patterns. Some teams excelled at creating powerful energy barriers, while others were better at generating disruptive interference fields. The AI helped optimize team assignments based on these natural capabilities and the specific threats they would face. Reports from satellite reconnaissance indicated that the Vanguard fleet had entered the outer solar system and was deploying into attack formation. The invasion force included specialized ships designed for different phases of planetary conquest, from initial bombardment to ground occupation. The aliens clearly intended to claim Earth as a permanent addition to their expanding empire. Dr. Price established communication protocols with government leaders around the world to coordinate civilian evacuation from the targeted cities. The quantum defense systems would protect most of the population, but there was always a possibility that some sites might be overwhelmed. Emergency shelters and evacuation routes had to be prepared without revealing the true nature of the threat. The Zephyrian technology included medical systems that could accelerate healing and enhance physical performance in the human-dog teams. Jake and Rex underwent treatment that improved their reflexes, coordination, and endurance while strengthening their quantum field sensitivity. The process was painless, but left them feeling more energetic and alert than they had ever experienced. Kevin discovered that the quantum generators could be linked together to create larger defensive zones than originally planned. This meant that fewer sites might be able to protect the same area, but would require perfect coordination between teams separated by hundreds of miles. The AI calculated optimal configurations for each region, while maintaining backup options if individual sites were compromised. The final equipment deployments were completed just 18 hours before the projected invasion time. Each team had received their quantum generators' communication devices and medical enhancement treatments. The defense network was as ready as it could be given the limited preparation time, but many uncertainties remained about how well the systems would perform under actual combat conditions. Rex demonstrated the ability to interface directly with quantum generators without human assistance, which provided a backup option if team members were injured during the battle. The dog could maintain basic defensive fields independently for several hours, while his human partner recovered from wounds or exhaustion. This capability was being taught to other canine partners as quickly as possible. Jake received authorization to serve as overall tactical coordinator for the defense network during the invasion. His experience with Rex and the Zephyrian systems made him the most qualified human to manage the complex interactions between teams and technology. The responsibility was overwhelming, but he understood that failure would mean the end of human civilization. The AI provided final briefings on Vanguard tactics and weaknesses based on observations of their previous conquests. The aliens were vulnerable to quantum disruption fields that could disable their weapons and propulsion systems. However, they adapted quickly to new threats and would modify their approach once they understood how the defense network operated. As the last hours before invasion passed, Jake and Rex prepared themselves mentally for the most important battle in human history. They had gone from routine police patrol to defending the entire planet in less than a week. The transformation had been extraordinary, but they felt ready to face whatever challenges the Vanguard invasion would bring. The defense teams at all 23 sites reported ready status as final system checks were completed. The quantum generators were operating at optimal efficiency, and the communication network was functioning perfectly. Earth's first interstellar defense system was online and waiting for humanity's greatest test to begin. The Vanguard attack began at exactly 0347 hours Greenwich Mean Time, with simultaneous strikes at all 23 target locations around the globe. Jake and Rex were in the Collins Farmhouse Command Center monitoring the global defense network when the first enemy ships emerged from quantum tunnels directly above major population centers. The invasion had begun with precision timing that demonstrated the aliens' advanced tactical capabilities. Rex immediately sensed the quantum disturbances created by the Vanguard arrival and alerted Jake several seconds before human sensors detected the enemy presence. The dog's enhanced perception allowed him to track individual alien ships and predict their movement patterns with remarkable accuracy. This early warning system gave the defense teams precious time to activate their quantum barriers before the first attacks arrived. The Vanguard ships were unlike anything in human military experience. They resembled enormous crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around their surfaces, making them difficult to observe directly. Energy weapons fired from multiple points along their hulls, creating destructive beams that could vaporize entire city blocks. The aliens had brought overwhelming firepower to ensure quick victory over what they expected to be primitive human defenses. Jake coordinated the activation of quantum defense grids at all 23 sites through the Zephyrian communication network. Each human dog team generated protective energy fields around their assigned areas, while Rex provided tactical guidance based on his ability to sense Vanguard intentions and weaknesses. The coordination required split-second timing and perfect trust between partners who had been working together for less than 3 days. The first Vanguard energy beams struck the quantum barriers and were completely absorbed by the defensive fields. The alien commanders were clearly surprised by this unexpected resistance, as their weapons had never failed to penetrate planetary defenses before. Jake could sense their confusion through Rex's quantum perception as they attempted to understand how primitive Earth technology could block their advanced weaponry. Team locations in New York, London, and Tokyo reported successful barrier deployment, despite being targeted by the largest Vanguard ships. The quantum generators were performing beyond specifications, and the human-dog partnerships were proving remarkably effective at maintaining defensive coordination under extreme stress. However, the battle had only just begun, and the aliens would certainly adapt their tactics once they analyzed the new threat. The Vanguard responded to the defensive success by increasing their attack intensity and attempting to overwhelm individual sites through concentrated fire. Jake watched through the quantum network as enemy ships repositioned themselves to focus multiple weapons on single targets. The strategy was logical, but the aliens had underestimated the interconnected nature of the Earth defense grid. Rex guided Jake through a complex series of quantum field manipulations that redistributed defensive energy from sites under lighter attack to reinforce those facing concentrated assault. The network operated like a living organism, with resources flowing dynamically to meet changing threats. This capability had been built into the Zephyrian technology, but required the intuitive understanding that only human-dog partnerships could provide. The battle continued for 6 hours with the Vanguard fleet unable to penetrate any of the 23 defensive positions. Alien frustration was becoming apparent as they deployed increasingly desperate tactics, including attempts to land ground forces outside the protected zones. However, Rex's quantum sensitivity allowed him to detect these movements and redirect defensive fields to intercept landing parties before they could establish positions. Jake noticed that the Vanguard ships were beginning to show signs of damage, from prolonged exposure to the quantum disruption fields. The alien technology relied on energy manipulation systems that became unstable when subjected to the interference patterns generated by the human-dog teams. This weakness had not been apparent in previous Vanguard conquests, because no other species had developed quantum field defenses. The tide of battle began to turn when Rex detected a critical vulnerability in the Vanguard command ship hovering above the Collins farmhouse site. The vessel's quantum tunnel generator was resonating with the defensive fields in a way that created feedback loops through the entire enemy fleet. Jake realized that they could potentially disable all Vanguard ships simultaneously by precisely modulating their defensive output. Coordinating this strategy required perfect synchronization between all 23 defense teams operating on 6 continents. Jake and Rex served as the central control node while the other human-dog partnerships adjusted their quantum field frequencies to create a global resonance pattern. The mathematical precision required was beyond human calculation, but the combined intuition of 23 canine partners made the impossible coordination achievable. The resonance cascade began building slowly, as each defense site fine-tuned their quantum output to match the calculated frequency pattern. Rex monitored the effect on Vanguard systems and provided real-time adjustments to maintain optimal interference. The alien ships began experiencing power fluctuations and navigation errors as their energy manipulation systems became increasingly unstable. The climax came when the resonance pattern reached critical amplitude and propagated through the quantum tunnels connecting the Vanguard fleet to their distant home base. Every alien ship in Earth's vicinity suddenly lost power and began falling toward the planet's surface. Emergency systems activated to prevent fatal crashes, but the invasion force was effectively neutralized within minutes of the resonance cascade reaching full strength. Jake felt the moment of victory through Rex's enhanced perception as the last Vanguard ship powered down and admitted defeat. The aliens had never encountered resistance that turned their own technology against them and were completely unprepared for the innovative tactics that human-dog partnerships had developed. The battle had been won not through superior firepower, but through creative adaptation of defensive capabilities. The Vanguard fleet commander established communication with the Collins farmhouse site and formally requested terms for withdrawal. The alien expressed amazement at Earth's defensive capabilities and admitted that they had seriously underestimated human potential. Jake found himself negotiating with an interstellar conquest force using translation software provided by the Zephyrian AI. Rex remained alert throughout the surrender negotiations and continued monitoring Vanguard ships for signs of deception or hidden weapons. The dog's quantum sensitivity had become so acute that he could detect the emotional states of individual aliens and verify their sincerity. This capability proved invaluable for ensuring that the enemy withdrawal was genuine rather than a tactical deception. The battle had lasted 18 hours and resulted in complete victory for Earth's defenders without the loss of a single human life. The 23 human-dog teams had successfully protected every targeted city and demonstrated that the partnership between humans and their canine companions could achieve defensive capabilities that surpassed anything either species could accomplish alone. As the Vanguard fleet retreated through quantum tunnels back to their home territory, Jake and Rex realized that they had fundamentally changed humanity's place in the galaxy. Earth was no longer a primitive world vulnerable to alien conquest, but a formidable defensive power that had earned the respect of aggressive species throughout the region. The partnership with the Zephyrians had transformed both species into something greater than the sum of their individual capabilities. The Vanguard retreat marked the beginning of a new era for humanity and the entire galactic region. Word of Earth's successful defense spread quickly through the interstellar community, and the innovative tactics developed by human-dog partnerships became the subject of intense study by military strategists throughout the galaxy. The Zephyrian High Council formally welcomed Earth into the Galactic Defense Coalition, with full membership rights and responsibilities. Jake and Rex found themselves at the center of a transformation that affected every aspect of human civilization. The Collins farmhouse site was designated as Earth's primary diplomatic facility for interstellar relations, while the hidden chamber became a permanent communication hub connecting humanity to hundreds of alien species. The quiet rural location had become one of the most important places on the planet. The success of the Quantum Defense Network led to immediate expansion of the Human-Dog Partnership Program. Military and police forces around the world began intensive training programs to develop teams capable of operating Zephyrian technology. The natural bond between humans and dogs proved to be even more valuable than originally anticipated, as the partnership unlocked capabilities that neither species possessed independently. Rex had evolved far beyond his origins as a police K9, and now served as Earth's first interstellar defense coordinator. His quantum sensitivity had developed to the point where he could monitor threats across multiple star systems and coordinate defensive responses with alien partners throughout the coalition. The transformation was remarkable, but he remained, fundamentally, the same loyal companion who had first detected the hidden chamber. Dr. Amanda Price established the Interspecies Partnership Institute to study and develop the unique relationship between humans and dogs in the context of galactic defense. Her research revealed that the bond created quantum entanglement effects that allowed instantaneous communication and shared consciousness across vast distances. This discovery revolutionized understanding of both quantum physics and the nature of consciousness itself. The Zephyrian AI became a permanent advisor to human governments and helped guide the integration of alien technology into Earth's infrastructure. Cities that had been targeted during the Vanguard invasion were rebuilt using quantum engineering techniques that made them virtually indestructible. The transformation of human society accelerated as access to galactic knowledge eliminated poverty, disease, and environmental degradation within a single generation. Jake accepted the position of Director of Galactic Defense Operations and worked with Rex to establish training facilities on multiple continents. Their experience during the invasion had demonstrated the importance of emotional bonds and trust between partners, and these qualities became central to all human-dog team development programs. The partnership model they had pioneered was adopted by other species throughout the coalition. The Collins farmhouse was preserved as a historical monument, while the surrounding area was developed into a major research and training complex. Thousands of human-dog teams trained there each year before deployment to defense installations throughout the local stellar region. The site where Rex had first frozen in recognition of alien technology became the foundation of humanity's expansion into space. Within 5 years of the Vanguard invasion, human-dog teams were serving on space stations orbiting distant worlds and protecting alien colonies from various threats. The quantum sensitivity that dogs had inherited from ancient Zephyrian genetic modifications made them invaluable partners for species that lacked similar capabilities. Earth's contribution to galactic defense was recognized as unique and essential. Rex's descendants carried enhanced quantum abilities that surpassed even his remarkable capabilities. The genetic modifications activated by exposure to Zephyrian technology were passed to offspring and continued evolving with each generation. These enhanced canines became sought-after partners for defense teams throughout the galaxy, and Earth became a major exporter of highly trained working dogs. The Vanguard never again attempted to invade coalition territory after their defeat at Earth. The innovative defensive tactics developed by human-dog partnerships had neutralized their primary military advantages and forced them to seek expansion in other directions. The reputation of Earth's defenders served as a deterrent that protected dozens of worlds from potential conquest. Jake and Rex continued working together for 15 years until Rex's retirement at the advanced age of 20. The dog had served as Earth's primary defense coordinator and diplomatic liaison with alien species throughout his career. His intelligence and intuition had prevented numerous conflicts and helped establish peaceful relationships with previously hostile alien governments. The partnership between humans and dogs became the foundation of a new model for interspecies cooperation that spread throughout the galaxy. Other species began developing similar bonds with their own companion animals, and discovered that these relationships unlocked previously unknown capabilities. The concept of partnership rather than dominance became central to galactic civilization. Earth's transformation from a primitive world to a major galactic power demonstrated that technological advancement was less important than the ability to form meaningful partnerships with other species. The human capacity for emotional bonds and the canine gift for quantum sensitivity created a combination that no other species had achieved. This unique contribution earned humanity a permanent place among the leaders of galactic civilization. The Collins Farmhouse Chamber remained active as a communication hub, connecting Earth to thousands of worlds throughout the galaxy. The technology that Rex had first detected continued operating flawlessly and served as the foundation for an interstellar network that promoted peace and cooperation among hundreds of intelligent species. What had begun as a police dog's unusual behavior during a routine patrol had become the catalyst for humanity's greatest achievement. Jake eventually retired to a small house near the original farmhouse site, where he could watch new generations of human dog teams beginning their training. Rex's great-grandson now served as Earth's chief defense coordinator, and demonstrated even more remarkable abilities than his famous ancestor. The partnership between humans and dogs continued evolving and expanding as both species adapted to their roles as guardians of galactic peace. The story of how a police dog's instincts saved 23 cities and transformed human civilization became legend throughout the galaxy. Children of dozens of species learned about the day when courage, loyalty, and partnership triumphed over superior technology and overwhelming odds. The lesson that cooperation could achieve what conquest could not became a guiding principle for galactic society and ensured that the peace Rex and Jake had helped establish would endure for generations to come. General Patricia Stone arrived at the Collins farmhouse site as the situation escalated to DEFCON 2. She was the highest-ranking military officer involved in the operation and carried authorization from the president to make decisions that would affect the entire planet. The weight of responsibility was enormous as she realized that humanity's survival depended on choices that would be made in the next few hours. Patricia had spent her career preparing for conventional military threats, but nothing in her training had prepared her for alien invasion and interspecies partnerships. She watched Jake and Rex demonstrate the quantum defense systems and tried to comprehend the technology that seemed to operate on principles beyond human understanding. The reality of the situation was almost too overwhelming to accept. The Zephyrian AI had been monitoring global communications and reported that Vanguard advanced scouts were now conducting detailed reconnaissance of Earth's major cities. The aliens were mapping defensive positions and identifying priority targets for the main invasion force. Traditional military responses would be completely ineffective against their advanced technology and overwhelming numbers. Dr. Price presented Patricia with the formal partnership proposal from the Zephyrian High Council. Humanity would be granted access to quantum defense technology and full membership in the Galactic Defense Coalition, in exchange for taking responsibility for protecting Earth and 3 neighboring star systems. The commitment would be permanent and would fundamentally change the trajectory of human civilization. The proposal included detailed specifications for the transformation that human society would undergo. Access to Zephyrian technology would advance human science by centuries. Within a few decades, diseases would be eliminated, Poverty would become obsolete and humanity would join a community of hundreds of intelligent species, working together to maintain peace and prosperity throughout the galaxy. However, the partnership also came with obligations that would limit human autonomy. Earth would be required to maintain the quantum defense network and provide military support to other worlds facing invasion threats. Human expansion into space would be guided by galactic law and subject to oversight by the Coalition Council. Independence would be traded for security and technological advancement. Patricia studied the terms while reports continued arriving about Vanguard fleet movements. The invasion force was massive and showed clear signs of being prepared for total conquest rather than limited military action. Every hour of delay increased the likelihood that Earth's defenses would be overwhelmed before they could be properly established. The AI provided additional information about the Vanguard that made the choice even more stark. The alien invaders had a policy of complete species replacement on conquered worlds. They would eliminate all human life and terraform Earth to suit their own biological requirements. There would be no possibility of coexistence or negotiated surrender if the defense failed. Rex seemed to understand the gravity of the situation and stayed close to Jake throughout the discussions. The dog's behavior had changed since entering the chamber, and he now moved with purpose and confidence that suggested enhanced intelligence. The quantum field exposure was apparently awakening dormant capabilities that the Zephyrians had programmed into canine genetics thousands of years ago. Jake reported that he was beginning to sense things through Rex's enhanced perception that he had never experienced before. The dog could detect quantum fluctuations, electromagnetic fields, and even the emotional states of people around them. This shared awareness was becoming stronger as they continued working with the Zephyrian technology and suggested that the human-dog partnership would develop capabilities far beyond anything either species could achieve alone. Patricia contacted the president and other world leaders to explain the situation and seek authorization for humanity's acceptance of the Zephyrian partnership. The decision required unprecedented international cooperation, as the defense network would need to be coordinated globally. Any single nation that refused to participate could compromise the entire planet's security. The response from world leaders was mixed but ultimately supportive, as the alternative was clearly extinction. Some nations were reluctant to surrender sovereignty to an alien coalition, but the evidence of the approaching invasion was undeniable. Satellite observations confirmed that the Vanguard fleet was moving toward Earth and would arrive within 36 hours. The AI began implementing emergency protocols to accelerate the activation of all 23 defense sites. Military units with K-9 teams were being transported to the hidden chambers, while emergency supplies and communication equipment were distributed to each location. The coordination effort was massive and complicated by the need for absolute secrecy to prevent public panic. Dr. Price worked with the AI to establish training protocols that could be compressed into the limited time available. The quantum field manipulation techniques that normally required months to master would have to be learned in hours. The success rate was encouraging, but several teams were struggling with the mental discipline required for effective human-dog synchronization. Jake and Rex were transported to other sites to provide demonstration training and boost morale among the defensive teams. Their success with the quantum systems had made them celebrities within the small community of people who knew about the crisis. However, Jake felt the pressure of knowing that humanity's survival might depend on his ability to teach others what he barely understood himself. The Zephyrian technology was remarkable in its ability to adapt to human limitations and provide assistance during the learning process. The AI could directly interface with the quantum fields generated by human-dog teams and provide guidance that felt like intuitive understanding rather than technical instruction. This made the training process faster, but also more dependent on maintaining emotional calm under extreme pressure. Reports from other defense sites indicated that teams were achieving basic quantum field generation within 12 hours of starting training. The natural partnership between humans and dogs was proving to be even more compatible with Zephyrian technology than the aliens had anticipated. However, combat effectiveness would require additional practice that time would not permit. The AI revealed that the Zephyrian High Council was monitoring Earth's preparation efforts and was impressed with human adaptability and determination. Other species had required years to achieve the same level of quantum defense capability that humans were demonstrating in hours. The partnership between humans and dogs was proving to be unusually effective for reasons that even the Zephyrians did not fully understand. Patricia signed the formal partnership agreement on behalf of Earth after receiving authorization from the United Nations Security Council. The decision committed humanity to a future that would be radically different from anything previously imagined, but offered the only realistic hope for survival. The transformation of human civilization would begin immediately regardless of whether the invasion could be successfully repelled. The AI confirmed receipt of humanity's acceptance and immediately began transmitting advanced technical specifications to research facilities around the world. The integration of Zephyrian technology into human infrastructure would take years to complete, but the process had to begin during the crisis to ensure long-term security. Earth was now officially a member of the Galactic Defense Coalition with all the benefits and responsibilities that membership entailed. As the final hours before invasion approached, Jake and Rex returned to the Collins farmhouse site to coordinate the global defense effort. They had become the primary interface between humanity and the Zephyrian AI and would serve as the central command node during the coming battle. The quiet farmhouse where this all began would become the headquarters for humanity's first interstellar war.